Alice. Right, colleagues, can we make a start? And welcome to the meeting. Welcome to our friends at the back. And also welcome to Paige Mosley. Paige is a law student who's here to on work experience. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the meeting.
And the Older People's Forum.
And the Older People's Forum at the back. Right, then, here we go. So it's attendance. There's a sheet going around, which I haven't had, actually. Or I'll do it after. Don't worry about that. And then apologies for absence. There isn't any. Declarations of interest. Linda, you need to point out to a number of people.
Thank you, Leader. There are a range of interests here. If I can start with item 6, I've had various discussions with members, and I think Councillor Daniels and Councillor Hunt have the same prejudicial interest. This is because they are governors of Llantarnam School, which is directly affected by the application to register the footpath. Normally, being a council-appointed governor doesn't incur a prejudicial interest, but in relation to this particular decision of a regulatory nature, it does. So for both Councillors Hunt and Councillor Daniels, they will have to leave for that item. Separately, Councillor Daniels also is a member of the Community Council. That's just a personal interest because they've been consulted on this application. Then I think the other range of interest relates to the exempt item, which affects the pension scheme, and some of the members are either contributors to the pensions or have spouses who draw a pension from that scheme. So if I can start, I know Councillor Clark, you contribute to the scheme. This is Councillor Gwynaira Clark, and I believe you told me your husband also draws a pension. That's just a personal interest. You can stay and take part in that decision. If I can go on then to Councillor Richard Clark, I think you are a contributor. And I think, Councillor Ewell, you actually draw a pension as well. And the Deputy Leader, you actually contribute to the pension scheme. So those are all personal interests. I think that's it, members. If there are any queries later on, obviously you can raise them then. Thank you, Leader.
Right. Thanks for that. On to item 4, which is the minutes of the 6th of May. We'll go through those page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Actually, they page 9, right? Page 9, page 10, page 11. Page 12, 13, or 14. What page does these minutes go up to, Chief Executive?
15, keep going.
Page 15. That's it. Somebody over there a true record?
Move.
All agreed? Thanks for that. On to item 5, which is the action sheet. Any comments to the Chief Executive, or do you want to say something? No?
No, Leader. I was just going to say there for information unless members have questions.
All right, thanks for that. On to item 6, which is the footpath of Llantarnam Road. I know I understand that both Anthony and David must leave. Christina, over to you.
Good morning, Leader. Good morning, members. I'll stick to the key messages contained on paragraph 3 to explain this report. And the content and the detail behind the rationale behind our decisions are contained within the report, particularly around paragraph 722. So if there are any points of detail that you would like explored, I have my colleague Mark Panniers here who will be able to explain any of the detail if you so wish. The purpose of this report is to consider a proposal for the making of a definitive map modification order under Section 53 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 to modify the definitive map by adding a public footpath between Llantarnam Road and Newport Road, Llantarnam. It has a very complicated history, this footpath, and we've received objections to the order being made, and we've also received people who were in support of the footpath being retained. And all of the information that's been contained is in the background papers to the report. But I'm also aware that a petition was recently received by my officers, and I understand it's been circulated to members. And that report was received following the report being written and submitted. But I would just like to confirm that even if we'd received this petition before the report was written, because it provides no evidence of use, we would have had to dismiss it anyway. But we will, depending on the outcome of the meeting this morning, we will provide a response to that petition anyway. So in considering our decision, we've had to look at the evidence of use and the balance of probability, whether there is evidence to support the application. So we've considered that, but also we've received council advice regarding DEFRA guidance, which has really pushed us into the proposal that we have detailed in the recommendation of the report to actually not support making the modification order. And I'd like to put that recommendation to you, members.
Thank you for that, Christina. Any comments of anybody? Lou?
Yeah, you know, it's noticeable that the footpath was contested by the school in 2012, and certainly I don't think it'd be wise to support this application, bearing in mind that it's a footpath adjacent and running through the grounds of a school. So consequently, you know, that's my belief.
Thank you. We have consulted other departments within the council, and there's no requirement for the use of the property after the school closes. So we're seeking a decision to declare the site surplus to requirements, permission to start the disposal process, and also delegated authority that the details of the disposal be decision on the disposal process be delegated to the executive member for resources. Essentially, that is the content of the report.
Yeah, Victor, any comments at all? All agreed with the recommendation, pretty sure? Thanks so much, Victor. All agreed. Now then, on to item 8, which is the financial results. This is Nigel. Going to excite us, I think.
You need to get out more.
I was just working out how I can keep up with the speed of it, given, you know, and I think I'm going to fail miserably on that. Okay, this is the, you know, the financial results for 2013-14, but it also carries some commentary about 2014-15, our reserves policy, and starts to touch on 2015-16. In terms of the key messages, you know, we always close our accounts down in a timely manner, giving members the chance for, you know, information at an early point in time, and that continues to be the case. We've got a reasonably good and favourable position at the end of 2013-14. We've got a number of positive variances across the council. We've got reasonable specific reserves for service areas, which will help them with the financial challenges going forward. The general fund balance is slightly higher than we would have thought, and I'll come back to that. Some slippage on capital, and we already know that the currently assumed Welsh Government forward indications can no longer be relied upon. It almost feels like this time last year again. But I'll come to that. Nothing much I want to really pick up on the background, other than the paragraph 4.2. I mean, there's a lot of commentary about local authorities' preparedness for the future and medium-term financial planning. There was a recent Public Accounts Committee in the Senedd. And obviously that's very important, and we do need to be focused on the medium term. It's not helped by the lack of forward indication. But reserves are also an important part of our resilience, and they are essentially our savings. There's a lot of commentary about somehow that can help us out of this financial hole, and we should be propping up recurring spend, and it isn't correct. There are savings, and they're not there to shore up budgets. They should be there to help us transform or innovate or cushion us against unforeseen positions. In terms of the financial results, they're there in the table, and I'll just pick out the authority-wide significant issues. There were two major issues that form part of the 2014-15 budget that are manifesting themselves in positive variances in the 2013-14 outturn. One is the unallocated budget, which we had during the past year, but didn't spend, and therefore we're rolling that forward into reserves. And then there was the collection fund. If you remember, when we were setting the 2013-14 budget, we expected the former council tax benefit scheme to be less than 100%, and we reduced our collection rate down accordingly. And that's resulted in a positive variance. That's gone in the 14-15 budget because we used it to help us with the 14-15 budget. So they are a part of the 14-15 budget. We didn't need to use the base budget contribution of 750,000 that's in the 13-14 budget, so therefore the general fund balance is slightly higher. And I'll come back to the potential that may give you as members in relation to citizen-facing spend. Service areas are generally within budget, and the previous practice, I think, of allowing services to carry that forward does help with no mad scramble at the year-end to spend resources and March Madness. And I think services start to look forward to 14-15 at an early point in the year and 15-16. It does help responsibility rather than pushing it all to the corporate centre. A lot of authorities are starting to do that. Some don't allow it all to go forward, but I think it's entirely sensible and entirely prudent. Each service then has a set of narrative around where their variances have come from. I think it would be worth commending all chief officers for the discipline that they show, as I say, in looking at this over a couple of years and then carrying the money forward. And a number of services this year have made positive decisions to try and hold back spend or carry stuff forward in light of what's coming. And there's quite a bit of one-off stuff that has come into this, either extra income, grants not being expected, refund of surpluses from other joint arrangements that are also coming through the various service spends. In relation to social care and housing, I think any underspend in the current climate of the demand facing social care is extremely positive and should be recognised. I won't run through every service, it's there, and I'm sure members have read it and can pick it up. In terms of the capital programme, some slippage there, and the reasons for it are noted. In terms of the financial standing of the authority, that's related to our reserves and balances, and Section 7 takes members through that. I've already commented that the general fund balance at the end of this year is higher than we would expect it because we didn't need to call on it to cushion the 13-14 budget. We're expecting it to drop to 4 million at the end of the current year we are in, which is a reasonable level, providing as part of the 15-16 budget we address the residual, or try to address the residual 750,000 that is still within our base budget. Then there's the reserves as they relate to each of the services. All of them healthy is how I would describe them. But each service area has challenges, and particularly in relation to social care and housing, in relation to the demand pressures, and education, obviously, in relation to the recovery board and changes that may need to be made there. It's nice to know those things can be done without destabilising the general budgets of the authority. That said, I think it's important you as members have some strategic oversight of where services are intending to allocate that resource, and we'll bring a report back in July so that you can see the broad areas where services are looking to discharge their reserves. There's some commentary there on school balances. Insurance reserves, we've taken the opportunity as closing to just top the insurance reserves up of the council, because the opportunity was there. There's then a paragraph on the corporate reserves we've got, and some commentary there. We've topped up the redundancy reserve because obviously we've got a programme of voluntary redundancies which are playing out in positive variances, and it does help us in workforce planning. We've made some small contribution to the risk management reserve, the elections reserve, which is for your elections, which you have to fund, and as we trail during the budget, a modest welfare reserve, because we simply don't know where all that's going to play out, or what minor interventions we may want to make that may positively help us in terms of hitting that agenda. Then there's some commentary on the innovation and investor save reserves. They're at healthy levels, but I make the distinction between investor save, where we will be expecting a payback if people or services want money from that, but as distinct from innovation, which by its nature is a little more risky, and not all innovation succeeds to the level you expect. So we've made a distinction there. There's a little section on risks, and the biggest one to bring out, I suppose, at the moment is the risk around pay within the 2014-15 budget. Our budget is based on 1%. There is no agreement, and anything above 1% will, of course, come with a cost to services and unemployment levels. There's then the section on reserves policy, which is unchanged from previous years, that members have agreed, and it just sets out when and how we like reserves to be used, and that the general fund reserve is primarily for unforeseen expenditure or big areas of transformation. But if we keep the general fund balance where it is, we'll have some money for if we get buffeted by unforeseen events. And in terms of approvals, within your strategic oversight as a cabinet, it falls to Councillor Hunt to approve specific allocations from reserves wherever they're held, and obviously I have the ability to approve them if the financial health of the council or risk to the council is such that it requires an urgent one. In terms of 2014-15, I'm just reminding members there that we basically threw a lot into the 14-15 budget to make it manageable, and there is no margin for error. We've got to drive the savings with discipline, and we've got to make sure we come within budget, and I've already mentioned around pay. In 9.2, though, I pick up on the point of the fact that the general fund balance is slightly higher than we expected, and therefore there is the opportunity for members to consider whether they want to use an element of that for what I've called citizen-facing spend. I mean, obviously our budget is around your priority areas, which is social care and the schools, but there's a lot of other services that impact on the public that don't get that we're unable to support, in these times. I'm suggesting a figure of around 400,000 would be prudent and wouldn't destabilise the finances of the authority or the general fund balance. It must be spent on one-off because it's one-off, so you shouldn't be looking to spend it on recurring stuff, and neither should you be looking to spending on stuff that may increase the revenue liabilities on the authority. From my perspective, I would think you want a limited number of initiatives to maximise that investment, because it would have been very easy as the Treasurer to just say, well, that gives me a greater cushion in the general fund balance, but it is about providing services at the end of the day and trying to be as flexible as we can. So I've laid that out in 9.2 and suggesting a report comes back. I've said July, but that'll be dependent on you as members in terms of the consideration. Then there's a bit on the medium-term financial plan, reminding members that we've already made our forward indications worse than the Welsh Government forward indications, but as the leader knows, we're now expecting that to be worse again, and probably into the similar territory we were in the current year. And that's going to make it extremely challenging and extremely difficult, and it means we really do need to move on now, not just with next year, but the following 2 years. In terms of going forward, capital 21st century schools, that will start to move now in the current year with the approvals that are in place. And the conclusions are, are self-explanatory. I think it's a reasonably good position. We continue to have good discipline across the Council. I think the ability to allow services to carry forward underspends, but within your strategic oversight works. We've got some big challenges ahead. You've got the potential for some small citizen-facing spend that can address some of the issues that we can't fund through the recurring budget, and there'll be a further report back in July considering the strategic oversight and the budget proposals and prospects and approach for next year. So I wasn't quite as quick as everyone else. Sorry, Mr. Leader.
Very good, Nigel. You've done a good job again. Anthony?
Thank Nigel for the report and really emphasise the importance of prudence, especially in the tough times that we face. If you think of the alternative, it's much better than us having to face a situation of having to adjust budgets in the year because of overspends. And I think that's something that we should thank departments for that responsibility that they've shown. The March madness that we've commented on last year and previously as well, I think is something that's absent, and that's something that, again, the alternative is much worse of departments trying to spend money just for the sake of it because they don't want to give it back to the centre. I think we've managed to avoid that through allowing them to manage their budgets in the way that we do. I think it's important to emphasise though that discipline exists for a reason, and the prudence that we advocate is there for a reason, both in terms of the uncertainties that we face in coming years in terms of our budget. The only thing we're certain of that it's certainly going to be grim. But I think that makes the need for that prudence especially important. And it's also worth emphasising the fact that reserves can't get us out of the challenge that we face financially. In terms of the next sort of 3 to 4 years, the level of reserves that the local government holds wouldn't plug the gap for one of them, let alone for several years of sustained austerity, whether we like it or not. But at the same time, I think when issues like the collection fund that Nigel emphasised with the unanticipated good news about the council tax benefit scheme result in a positive balance, that we should use that to help address the areas of need that members of the public find important in terms of things that we could do on a one-off basis. I also note from the report that the expected general fund balance is estimated to drop by March of next year, so it shouldn't be seen that our balances are rising, but that the outlook in the future is still for a downward trend, especially given the fact that there's £750,000 of our base budget that has a contribution from those funds. So really, the key message there is that the reserves are there and the prudence is there for a reason. It's not a case of stockpiling, but of addressing unforeseen challenges and helping us face the challenges of the future that we do face. We've obviously started to look at our medium-term financial plan, and that's something I think we need to move forward with pretty quickly now, looking at next year's budget and forward from there to make sure that the areas of priority that we have as a council in terms of investing in education and investing in protecting our most vulnerable citizens are taken forward on a long-term basis. So I commend the report to you on those terms.
Well done, Anthony. Anybody else want to make a comment? Gunaila?
Yes, thank you, Leader. 7.5, very pleased to see that over many years we've been concerned about the school balances in some particular schools. I'm very pleased to see this on the agenda this morning, that any school in excess of 5% will be scrutinised, and I think that'll be a relief to us all.
Good. Anybody else? If not, all agree the report. Thanks very much. Thank you, Nigel.
I mean, I should hopefully be fairly quick on this one. I mean, this is us just adopting a new scheme from the Welsh Government aimed at helping retail businesses under a rateable value of 50,000 with help with their rates up to £1,000. I mean, the report basically suggests that we should adopt the scheme. Within the appendix, you can see the types of premises that would benefit from it and the types of benefits that don't. Our estimate is that there may be some 240 businesses or units within Torfaen that may benefit from that. And you can have this benefit in addition to other benefits. So businesses within the rateable value range of 6,000 to 12,000 rateable value who will already be getting small business rate relief will also qualify for this, and a lot of them will then pay very negligible rates. So I think this is, a good scheme from the Welsh Government. It's funded by the Welsh Government, and I just recommend that we adopt it.
Good. Good news for a change. Go on.
I just very much welcome the fact that this is something that will benefit 250 local small businesses, and I think, in what's been tough times for them over the last few years, I'm glad that we can offer this support to hard-working small businesses in Torfaen.
Yeah. Oh, all agree with the report, please show. Thanks. Thanks very much, Nigel.
Thanks, Leader. Another brief report. This is about Cabinet appointing members to serve on joint committees and partnerships. These aren't outside bodies which Council appoints to. These are things which perform executive functions. So, Leader, really all I need to mention is the recommendations. It's recommended that Cabinet agrees the appointments of the people listed in the appendix to the report, that the appointments have immediate effect, and that European and regional affairs matters and equalities matters continue to be dealt with by full Cabinet, not by subcommittees.